Hello and welcome to the Cat Who Project. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the cats in Lillian Jackson Braun's second book, The Cat Who Ate Danish Modern. Of course, Koko is featured as the main cat companion in Qwilleran's life. In Chapter 1, Qwilleran is considering his 4 problems. He is womanless, he might soon be homeless, and at the rate the moths were feeding on his neckwear, he would soon be tireless. And if he said the wrong thing to the managing editor today, he might very well be jobless. Over 45 and jobless, it was not a cheerful prospect. Fortunately, though, not friendless. On his breakfast table, along with a large unabridged dictionary, a stack of paperback books, a pipe rack with a single pipe, and a can of tobacco, there was a Siamese cat. Every morning, Koko occupied one small corner of the breakfast table, arranging himself in a compact bundle, brown feet and a tail tucked fastidiously under his white-breasted fawn body. Qwill says, "You make this apartment look like a dump." Koko squeezed his eyes and breathed faster. With each breath, his nose changed from black velvet to black satin, then back to velvet. So at the beginning of Book 2, Qwill has had Koko for 6 months, and in that time he has fed him well, conversed sensibly, and invented games to play. Unusual pastimes that appeal to the cat's extraordinary intelligence. As the book progresses, Qwill and Koko move into Harry Norton's apartment at Villa Veranda, temporarily, and Koko sets to work to help Qwilleran solve the mysteries. But in this book, Koko's methods of guiding Qwilleran ends up causing a lot of distress. He starts to eat material and then took it back up again. It gets to the stage where Qwill actually consults a psyCATatrist, which is basically an old lady who has a lot of cats and knows a bit about cat behaviour. The psyCATatrist, named Mrs. Highspite, tells Qwilleran that she thinks Koko is lonely and that he should consider getting another cat to keep him company. At that very moment, a smaller female Siamese called Fee was burrowing into Qwill's pocket, and he suggested maybe that this little cat might be suitable. But Mrs. Highspite said no, not that one, because she was special, and I think Qwilleran was quite disappointed. Mrs. Highspite also solved another Koko mystery. Why did Koko not like Koki, the woman that Qwilleran was currently dating? Well, it was apparently to do with the names sounding so similar, Koko and Koki. Qwilleran broached the issue with Koki, whose real name was Alacoque Wright, in the last few pages of the book. He said, "I've got to change your name." Koki looked at him dreamily, thinking of wedding bells. But her bubble was burst when Qwill set her right, saying that Koko didn't like it when he called her Koki. It's too close to his own name. Koki responded with a wistful droop in her voice, saying, "Just call me Al." Yum Yum was introduced early on in the book, but then didn't really feature again until the end of the book. She belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Tate, mostly Mrs. Tate, who died the night of the jade theft. Strangely enough, the couple refer to her by a couple of different names. She's called Freya, after the Norse goddess of love, and also Y-U, which is apparently a type of jade. Qwilleran tells Mrs. Highspite this, and she responds by telling Qwilleran that this cat actually came from one of her litters, and it's Mrs. Highspite who puts the idea for the name Yum Yum in Qwilleran's mind. He tells her that his cat is named Koko, and she said it's just like Gilbert and Sullivan, and sings a rhyme, for he's going to marry Yum Yum to Dum. Later, Qwilleran learns that Mr. Tate had simply put Yum Yum out of the house to fend for herself. This really upsets Qwilleran, and when he speaks to Mr. Tate on the phone about getting Yum Yum back, he really has to control his temper. And in this paragraph, there's this line: "Qwilleran had a particular loathing for people who mistreated animals." Qwilleran tells Koko that he's going to get a little playmate, a little cross-eyed lady cat. A few minutes later, Koko is up on Qwilleran's desk, licking the photograph of Mr. Tate's armoire, bringing Qwilleran's attention to a barely visible crack in the cupboard and the possible secret compartment that Mr. Tate could be hiding the supposedly stolen jade. So with that in mind, Koko and Quillerin head to the Tate residence to collect Yum Yum, but also to test the theory of the secret compartment in the armoire. And when Tate leaves Quillerin in the room alone to collect Yum Yum, Quillerin gets to work on the armoire cupboard to try and crack open the secret compartment. His full attention is focused on finding the jade, and so he doesn't hear Tate return with a weapon and an intent on harming Qwill. And if Koko had not been on the ball, Quillerin might have been murdered by Mr. Tate. But there was a piercing soprano scream, and then a blur of fur and a crash as a lamp fell to the floor and smashed. What was left was Mr. Tate on the floor with his legs tightly bound by the rope that was attached to Koko's harness. And in the now silent room, there was only the hard breathing of the prisoner and the hissing of a female cat who was sitting atop of Tate's armoire cupboard. At the end of the book, Quillerin has brought Yum Yum home from a checkup at the vet hospital and has left the two cats alone in the apartment for a little while to get used to each other. When he returned, Yum Yum was sat on the green Danish chair looking dainty and sweet. Koko jumped down from the coffee table and ambled over to join Yum Yum. They sat side by side in identical positions, like bookends, with both tails curled to the right, both pairs of ears worn like coronets, both pairs of eyes ignoring Quillerin with pointed unconcern. And the final paragraph. Koko gave Yum Yum's face 2 affectionate licks and lowered his head, arching his neck gracefully. He narrowed his eyes, and they became slits of catly ecstasy as the little female recognized her cue and washed the inside of his ears with her long pink tongue. Well, that's it for this episode of The Cat Who Project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.